Hey you lot, and welcome to another episode of News You Might Have Missed. I'm your host Tom Lord, and on this show we look at a mighty mix of eclectic excerpts, ranging from news outlets, blogs and tabloid rags based around the globe. On today's show we've got: online survey found supermarket delivery pickers substituted mushrooms for tampons. A Quebec man gets a letter after a holiday from the government, informing him he's dead. And Japanese breeders disguise cows as zebras to avoid insect bites. But first, officials have seized a £750 alligator from a New York home. According to The Guardian, a blind alligator weighing more than £700 and stretching more than 10 foot in length was recently seized from a home in upstate New York. On the 12th of March, the state's Environmental Conservation Department seized the 30-year-old, £750, 11-foot-long alligator called Albert Edward from a home in the Erie County community of Hamburg. According to the authorities, the owner neither had the proper permit for the animal nor had properly secured it. The owner reportedly installed an in-ground swimming pool for the purposes of keeping the alligator, and even allowed people to get in the water and pet the otherwise unsecured animal. Authorities, after they seized the animal, discovered that the alligator had various health issues, including blindness in both eyes and spinal complications. The alligator was then turned over to a licensed caretaker for temporary housing until the alligator could be set up with a more permanent arrangement. Bloody unfair on Albert to have been ripped from his home after 30 years. I bet he was a bit snappy about it. Supermarket delivery pickers substituted mushrooms for tampons. According to The Guardian, mushrooms in place of tampons, a frozen pizza substituted for tinned peaches, and cream crackers instead of Christmas crackers are among bizarre substitutions reported by online shoppers in a new poll. And just over a third of online grocery shoppers reported having received a substitution in their most recent grocery delivery. Apparently Asda is the worst offender, with more than half of customers receiving a substituted item in their last order. Other items included allergy tablets instead of an anti-allergy duvet, and a bag of flour instead of a loaf of bread. I mean, it's completely deranged. If that's the sort of bar that they're trying to attain, they might as well replace rubber johnnies with resealable sandwich bags. A woman's been jailed after a $270,000 extortion attempt after an affair with a married man. According to Cali J Times, a 45-year-old beautician is accused of threatening to tarnish a man's reputation unless he paid her 1 million dirhams. The Polish defendant used sensitive personal information to extort the claimant, who was a 57-year-old Australian consultant. According to records, the relationship fell apart when the woman found out the man was already married. That then led to a confrontation where she demanded compensation. The man then paid the woman 300,000 dirhams in an attempt to stop her telling his family. But then she made repeated calls and threats to defame the man if he didn't pay her the 1 million dirham. She even got his wife's, children's and other family members' contact numbers and sent them intimate photos of the couple. But the court has now convicted the woman, sentencing her to 3 months in prison, followed by deportation. Top tip then, if you are going to do a bit of the old extortion, maybe take the first offer of cash. That and don't stove in someone else's husband in the first place. A Quebec man has got a letter after a holiday from the government informing him he's dead. According to CTV News, a 14-page letter from the Ministry of Justice was sent to Nick Fortoris' estate for a speeding ticket. The problem is the man was very much alive. He said, "Wow, that's news to me." The 34-year-old said he contested a speeding ticket from 2022 and then left for a holiday in Central America. The man has said he's tried to call the government to prove that he's actually alive, but wasn't able to speak to anyone. But a ministry spokesperson said in an email that the mix-up was a case of human error. The spokesperson further said, the collector of fines mistakenly used the letter template to correspond with an estate, rather than one normally used to communicate with the defendant. To be fair, if I got a letter saying that I was dead from the government, that'd be a winner. Imagine the possibilities. Vigilante, super spy, mysterious pub customer, and all without paying tax again. A Canadian woman found a live hand grenade after cleaning out her deceased father's home. Kedrin Sins Brackman found the item when she was going through a toolbox. She said, "I was looking for something, and then I opened up the toolbox, and there was the grenade." The lady herself wasn't immediately sure what to do, and so called her stepsister in from another room. She said, I'm like, what do we do with it? Do we pick it up? Do we drive it to the police? You know, how do we take care of it? I don't want to touch this thing. It's a grenade. The police came, and soon after, 2 members of the army arrived with an artillery case. The army said, we normally get calls for these antique things, and they aren't live. But this one had a detonator in it and everything, and it was intact. So they secured it, loaded it in their truck, and off they went. A live hand grenade, eh? Well, still better than finding your dad's old Nazi uniform. That unless it was a personalised Nazi hand grenade. A $500,000 sand dune sea defence collapsed days after being finished. According to The Guardian, after a series of storms battered the area, locals got together with necessary steps to try and protect their homes, and a volunteer organisation raised more than $500,000 to erect a 15,000-ton sand dune. But unfortunately, just 3 days after it was completed in early March, the sea wiped it away. Obviously, the incident made the project a laughingstock, but the president of the project said the dunes we built were sacrificial. They sacrificed themselves to protect the properties. Water didn't go into people's living rooms, destroyed houses, destroyed decks, patios and so on. So the dunes worked. But someone on Facebook said to the contrary, your houses sit right on an ever-rising and ever-violent sea. Do you really think any amount of money will stop what's inevitable? So epoxy sand dune can't stop the immense power of the sea. Who'd have thought it? And in a completely made-up story, the residents are now thinking about using candy floss and chocolate fire guards to stem the flow of water. Japanese breeders are disguising cows as zebras to avoid insect bites. According to Courier International, to combat horseflies and other insects, Japanese researchers have invented a technique consisting of placing stripes on the skin of cows. Apparently, as a result of these stripes, it's actually reduced the amount of head swatting and tail swatting that the cows do by up to 70%. But one of the researchers said, when I was first told about it, I believed it was a lie. He said, I applied strips at regular intervals on the bodies of my cows in order to apply a white stripe using a spray. It was difficult to keep from laughing thanks to the method, but the cows no longer attracted insects at all. And the good thing is the zebra cows are not harassed by their peers. They spend their lives very quietly. If it sounds stupid and it works, then it's not stupid. Just like the time I watched Jaws 12 times to try and get rid of my fear of sharks, but no, that didn't work. Taylor Swift fans caused seismic activity with her L.A Show. According to The Hill, the signals were recorded on a regional network located within about 9 kilometres of the stadium, as well as on strong motion sensors placed near and inside the stadium prior to the concert series. Researchers were then able, using spectrograms, to identify 43 of the 45 songs that Taylor Swift performed that night. From there, they calculated the radiated energy of each song and then converted it into the local magnitude of an earthquake that would have radiated the same energy. And based on the maximum strength of the shaking, the strongest tremor was equivalent to a magnitude 2 earthquake. And in other news, the only thing louder than the audience at a Taylor Swift concert is the sound of her critics watching her jet take a 20-minute flight to avoid a 30-minute car ride. An Australian burglar was caught doing car park yoga immediately before a pastry heist. According to the Mirror, the limber criminal did a yoga routine and was caught stretching by the bakery's surveillance camera just before she broke into the pastry shop around 3 AM. In the footage now put on Instagram, the burglar appears to kick her legs up, lift her arms in the air, and rolls her shoulders as she lies on the ground in comedic footage which has gained over 700 likes. The 44-year-old from Richmond then took the croissants, along with an iPad, some shoes, and cleaning products from the bakery. But she was caught, charged with theft, burglary, and going equipped to steal, and then released on bail. And in a completely made-up story, after her arrest, she was asked why she was doing yoga in the car park. And she said, I'm into fitness. Fitness whole donut in my mouth. The Cambodian Prime Minister has banned musical vehicle horns to prevent dancing. According to The Guardian, police have been told to rip out tune-playing horns and replace them with standard ones after young people have been seen dancing to passing lorries. Hun Manet, the Cambodian Prime Minister, said that provincial authorities were already implementing this rule, but he wanted to announce it publicly so that it would be enforced nationwide. He commented that on his Facebook page on Monday, recent social media pages had shown inappropriate activity committed by some people, especially youth and children, dancing on the roadside to the musical sounds from trucks' horns. with one video showing 3 young people dancing in the middle of a road whilst a large trailer truck coming their way lays down a beat. I'm not being funny, but if you're the sort of person that stands in the way of a lorry, then a straight horn honk isn't going to change your mind. Horn honk? Honk horn? Okay. A pregnant woman, fed up of answering the same questions, creates a leaflet instead. According to Tattletale Times, a local pregnant woman, Jocelyn Bell, has reportedly saved hundreds of hours creating a leaflet for her most frequently asked questions. This was after she was tired of answering the same set of questions over and over. The leaflet covers everything from due date, baby's gender, name ideas, all the way up to if she plans to breastfeed. Her friend said, "It's like having a pregnancy cheat sheet. I'm already brainstorming ideas for my pamphlet, but I should probably find a husband first." There's also a section called "Things not to say to a pregnant woman unless you want to be slapped," with statements such as, "Are you sure it's not twins?" and "You look like you're about to pop." I have a similar problem when my mates ask me if I'm pregnant. I should hand them a little card that says, "Thanks for that earth-shattering insult. I'm going to cry myself to sleep at night, again, like I do every night." A shop error has left the Orkney Islands with more Easter eggs than people. According to The Guardian, Sinclair General Stores needed to order 80 eggs, but instead accidentally ordered 80 cases of 9 eggs. The shop's owner, Dan Dafford, described his initial embarrassment and shame when he realised how many eggs had actually arrived. The rest of the staff were chuckling and finding it very entertaining. And in the spirit of Willy Wonka, he is now running a charity competition to let one person win 100 of the spare eggs. He said, "I don't think conventional means he's going to get rid of them. We've been thinking outside the box a little bit, and we're doing a guess the number square to win 100 Easter eggs." Squares are being sold for £1 each, with proceeds going to the RNLI. But Dafford further said, "If you won them, you'd probably just give them all away." But a couple of customers were pretty set on the idea of trying to eat all 100. Good of the owner to try and make the best of a rubbish situation. But you must agree, after this cock-up, the owner sure was left with egg on his face. A Texas man has been arrested for using a boarding pass photographed from another traveller's phone. According to Gizmodo, a Texas man was arrested in Salt Lake City on Sunday after he was discovered roaming around a Delta Airlines flight without a designated seat. Wycliffe Fleusiard, a 26-year-old from Texas, told police he was in Utah on a snowboarding trip, but needed to get back to Texas to see family who had arrived from Florida. Fleusiard got through security at Salt Lake City International Airport by using his own Florida ID and a boarding card, but it's not clear whether the boarding pass Fleusiard used was the same one he presented to actually get on the plane. And court documents indicate Fleusiard was taking photos of multiple passengers' phones whilst they were not looking. But when he boarded a full flight with no empty seats left, the boarding card said he was in 21F, which was obviously taken. It was then when they verified the passenger in 21F had actually paid for their ticket, and the man got arrested, and he's been charged with being a stowaway. I can't help but think that he would have been better off trying to get into the cargo hold, rather than messing about trying to get into the cabin. At least then he would have got decent legroom. Not advice, by the way. And finally, pregnant bats have delayed a school demolition. Councillor Jane Walker said, "We had planned to have the contractors who are on site at the moment building the school to stay on site and demolish the old school. But when they went into school to investigate and see what they needed to do, they discovered bats. And not just ordinary bats, but pregnant bats." She further went on to say that basically they can't do anything until Natural England gives them the go-ahead. And obviously that's going to cause massive delays. And at the moment, we haven't got a date for the demolition of the old school. But a government website said all bat species, their breeding sites and resting places are fully protected by law, and that breaking the law on bat protection could mean a prison sentence of up to 6 months and an unlimited fine. 6 months for disturbing a bat? When I shout at pregnant women in the street, all I get's a verbal warning. I think the police have got their priorities mixed up. Thanks for watching. Please like, comment and subscribe if you do so fancy. Also, if you think there's any news that we might have missed, please get in contact on the email below. See you next time for another jam-packed news you might have missed. Stay gravy.